You guys are wondering if we're talking without you, right? She's coming. Daniel, can you hear me?
I can hear
Yep.
you. This is Carrie.
Okay, good.
I'm driving, so I'm keeping my camera off, but I can listen and I can talk if necessary.
Okay, well, let me grab Lori, and then I think you guys should be good.
We're just going to wait 2 more minutes. Okay, we're going to go ahead and convene this meeting. It is 5:05 on Monday, June 23rd, 2025. This meeting will now come to order for the Community Development Committee. We will, oh, perfect timing. We will take a quick roll call. I am the chairperson, Kirsten Thompson, and if those on the committee could say their names.
Brandy Johns.
Ray Thomas.
Okay, seeing that we have a quorum, before that, let me also recognize we have Daniel Jensen with Sunrise Engineering and Carrie Malkovich with the City Council as our liaison. We will excuse today Chloe Cleveland and Nate Myers, and we also have a little guest, Lorraine here, so she's our citizen attendee today. Okay, so those are our members of our committee and those on the call. I don't think I see anybody else. I do need to say this before we move into approving minutes from our past meetings. Today, Nate Myers let me know that he will need to resign. So members of the committee or community, please let us know if you know of anybody interested in joining our community development committee.
Those microphones are
When do you want those names by?
okay.
Kirsten?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to know what day did you want names submitted to you for possible committee members?
That's a great question. I'd like to do this as soon as possible. We do plan on meeting in July, right? Daniel, you don't have any issues with July? So how about can we plan, and then what are the next few dates for the city council?
We only have one meeting in July. That's the second Tuesday.
So would the meeting in August be the second Tuesday?
Yes, second Tuesday and the fourth Tuesday in August. One of those dates we will be having our truth and taxation hearing if needed. And so there will be a full meeting, but either one would work in approving a new member.
Our meeting typically wouldn't be until after that second Tuesday.
Yep.
We would have to meet before then just to maybe install a new person if we were to make that second Tuesday deadline. What do you guys think? Do you think we should just try to?
Or you can get names and you could call each committee member individually to see what they think and then put it forth to the city council for the July agenda.
Okay.
We can get names that quick.
Well, we'll try. We will try. So I will contact each of you, or you can contact me, to work that out. And we will aim for the July 2nd Tuesday City Council meeting to nominate a council member or committee member. I keep saying
We need someone from Summit Creek area.
that would be great.
Yeah,
Because
someone
we don't-
different.
Okay. Good call.
I feel bad because I literally don't know anybody. So not helpful.
Okay, well, we will work on that. All right. We need to approve minutes from past meetings. I sent them via email a bit ago. I'm sorry, my brain is in like 10 different places today. So I move that we approve the meeting minutes for March 24th. This one we just had to clarify a couple things. It was March 24th. It was a 5 p.m. meeting held here at the city with remote participants. I motion to approve these minutes.
Are you doing the May 12th ones also?
I will do those also. This hasn't been done yet.
I'll second that.
Okay. All I am taking notes and leading, so you'll have to just be patient. Okay, and then May 12th was our last meeting that we held, again here at 5 p.m. in the Woodland Hills City Center. The meeting minutes were circulated. Do we have a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to approve the May 12th, 2025 minutes.
I'll second that.
Second. Okay, we'll do all in favor for March. Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, all in favor for May. Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, those are done. All right, now, sorry, this is taking a minute. Moving on to our agenda. So, also sent earlier were some land use goals by Daniel. He can tell you more about them, and maybe the plan moving forward as far as, I think he said the marketing department was working on putting these into a, format. But this is kind of the meat of what you're going to find within that format. So hopefully you all had time to review some of it, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this time to him.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, we're at an exciting part of the general plan process where we're working with our marketing team to create a draft that is visually appealing, that has the research that we've gathered and the goals and the background for those goals and all of the general plan essentially. And I was hoping to have the full 3 chapters. There are 3 chapters worth of goals that were sent out. And I was hoping to have the draft sent out beforehand, but I was out of town and then our marketing person was out of town last week and she got in today. And so today we've been exchanging edits back and forth, but I have on my end the draft of those 3 chapters and it's just about ready to send out to everyone. So it may not look like it from your end, but from my end, I'm seeing all the drafts of all the chapters start to come together and it's starting to look really nice. I know you've only seen this Word document of the goals of 3 of the chapters, but it's really coming along and it's looking good. So what we'll do today is we'll take a look at your comments, edits, concerns, feedback of the goals for those 3 chapters that I sent out. I'll integrate those into the edits that we're working on. And then hopefully within a day or two, I can send you all the draft, right? The actual nice looking draft of these 3 chapters. And so for our July meeting, we can look at the full draft of those 3 chapters as well as goals for a couple additional chapters as we move along. The reason why we're breaking it up like this is we found that if I drop 100 and something page document on everyone, it's a lot. So we're trying to piecemeal it, right? And so we can do little sections at a time and hopefully by the end of the summer have gone through all of the general plan, all of the goals, and then all of the actual content of the plan. And we'll have something that is a complete document that we can submit to the Planning Commission for their review and recommendations to the council. So that's kind of where we're at. So hopefully, like Kirsten was saying, everyone got a copy of the document that has the goals for, I believe it's land use, moderate income housing, and transportation. I think that's the order. And hopefully everyone had a chance to review that, mark it up. And if not, I guess we'll just go through it. But I don't know, Kirsten, if we want to just take it from there.
I had 2 questions.
Yeah.
One was, how many chapters do you anticipate or sections do you anticipate there being? And the other one is, will we be able to get the goals ahead of time before our July meeting to review them in advance?
Yeah. So in total, there are 10 chapters plus an appendix. The appendix is the survey results. The 10th chapter is annexation policy plan, which is a state mandated policy plan. I don't even remember if that was part of the initial scope, but it's state mandated, simple enough, so we put it together. So 9 chapters of typical general plan. The first 2 are generic, kind of like visioning, demographics, that sort of thing, the background. And then chapters 3 through 9, that's land use, moderate income housing, transportation, trails, water and infrastructure, natural resources and water. So it's infrastructure, natural resources and water. And I'll have to take a look. I'm missing something. And then in terms of what you'll have, I can provide the goals for the next. See, I don't have all the goals complete for one of those chapters, for actually chapter 6, which is the next chapter. I should have that done by later this week, but I can have goals by the end of this week for the next.
Prior to the next meeting would be ideal.
Yeah, well, yeah, several weeks prior, hopefully a couple weeks prior to the next meeting, right? So you can have time to review them.
Right.
Try to think if we have how many chapters of goals do we have? 7, we've done 3, so we have 4 more chapters of goals. So if we can do 2 more chapters of goals for the next meeting, plus look at the 3 full chapters of what we just did, right? Of what we're doing right now. So 3 chapters of content that's like gone through marketing, has the full content, and then 2 additional chapters of new goals to take a look at. I think that would be plenty for July, and I can have all of that done probably within the next week. So that way you have at least 2 or 3 weeks to take a look at it before that July meeting.
That would be great. Okay, any questions off the bat on some of this? Any in the land use goals, the very first?
I thought it looked really great, and I like the plan. I like that we're just doing a few at a time. I think that's very helpful because you can focus a little bit more. I did want to mention when you talk about ADUs, that's in moderate housing, but we have ordinances that are supportive of both internal and external ADUs. So I thought you should put both of those wording on that section.
Yeah. Okay, let me make sure I understand it correctly. So we have ADUs, then accessory apartments, and our accessory apartments, I'm going off of memory here. Are accessory apartments the detached ADU? Is that the terminology?
No, so we have apartments that could just be a small little section. We have the internal ADU and we have the external or detached ADU.
Detached.
So it's more of that idea that you can have a whole, like your whole basement could be the ADU, or you can have like a tiny home on your property. And then you can also just have a small part to rent to, some people rent to their kids or their family or whatever.
Mhm. Okay. Internal. And you call it external or detached ADUs?
Detached. So we have ordinances for both types of ADUs.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I had a question when you're ready. In goal 2, support thoughtful land use planning in new growth areas in section B1. I know last time we talked a little bit about the styling of a villa flat or manor house, which would have, multifamily housing, but look like a typical home that you would, just see already here. My question though is, with that style of dwelling, are there parking requirements difficult to accommodate, and maybe not something that I would imagine that triggers some larger parking lots, because it would have to you know,
Park on the street. So,
it would have to support multiple housing units, and so then you would simply need a lot.
Yeah, that's right. And right now, Woodland Hills doesn't have a zone for this type of housing, right? So that type of zone would have to be created. And state code has restrictions with single family housing, but with multifamily housing, what we typically see is a standard of something like 2.5 or 2.75 parking stalls per unit. And that could be a mixture of something that's covered versus uncovered. So as it relates to lot size, you may either see like a garage or a carport required as part of it, or you may see something like the amount of lot coverage, which is the amount of pavement on the lot, be increased. So the backyard might have less grass and might have less green space and may have more of a parking pad than you typically see for a single family home. So from the street, it would look more like a single family home, but the backyard, unfortunately, may be more paved over, right? But hopefully you wouldn't have any sort of garage dominant like front facing architecture, but that would really go to council and how they would want it to look when they create that zone. But that is right, Kirsten. So you may have 8, 9, 10 parking stalls for a 3 or 4 unit building.
Carrie, do we require garages for homes, single family homes?
We currently do, but the legislature I think they just passed something that says that you cannot require a garage. I got to go back and look. It was on the table and I can't remember if it passed or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it did. I'd have to double check that as well. And that's going to be for single family homes, right, Carrie?
Yes.
I don't think there was any sort of requirement for multifamily. Typically, a city doesn't require a garage for multifamily, but I also don't remember the state having a regulation that you could not require some sort of covered parking. I think that's
Right.
up to the cities at this point.
And I think because we have so much snow that it would be something that if it's allowed, we would probably require it.
I'd like
And
to
if you're
hear.
a developer, you'd probably want to do it anyway because of the weather.
I'd just be curious your guys' thoughts. There's a part of me that likes allowing, options. This is things the council is deciding anyway, but I'm not sure how welcome an 8 to 10 space parking lot would be in a city like this next to a house. That's with this style of housing, that's my concern.
So if
I just feel like when people are designing this type of a product now, they would probably do some sort of garages along the bottom of back. So you may not be able to access the garage from like your third story apartment, but you could walk down.
Two-story.
Or
We can't
two-story.
have a third story.
Two-story. After you could walk down and out, and then there would be a garage back behind. And I see a lot of things that way. So
That
you
would
at
be
least
more
have
like
a one-car garage.
like we've talked about having a mountain aesthetic, but like a townhouse or a twin home style thing. This is
Yeah.
maybe
if-
different than that.
if I think overall the citizens don't want that. They just want one big house on one lot. So do we put this in the plan?
Well, based on the survey, there were some that were okay with that because if you remember, Lori, if we go with just single family only, we don't have any architectural control. We can't tell people what to build or how to build. We can't say that there has to be trees. We can't say that there has to be a park or trails or anything. But if we do it in these planned unit developments that allow the developer to come in with some different options, then we can have the ability to have an input on those other things. And so our residents, as they were looking at that as being just flat land with no trees at this point, they wanted to have little parks or some trail systems or some trees put in, and we told them that you can't choose both. And so when they looked at the maps and they started putting things around, there are certain sections they thought would be okay for alternative types of housing other than just one big house on the lot.
So with
That
that in
sounds-
mind, where would these villa flats and manors go? Could they go on a 1 acre lot? Or would they be, I guess I'm just confused. Where would something like this go in the city? Because if it's down, where there's more density and people were more comfortable with that, down by the busy roads, that's maybe different. But how is this then different than the PDU or the
Well,
mixed?
that is part of the PDU or the mixed use. So we're just basically talking about that flat spot along 11-200. Now, we gotta keep in mind, we can give suggestions all we want, but whoever owns the property will choose what kind of development they want. We just want to be able to give them options so that if we need to change the zoning, it's in the city, it's in the general plan. And then that allows us to then say, yes, this is a forward thinking thing. It's not something just we pull out of the sky. And so having options in the plan doesn't mean it's going to be that way. It just means a developer who owns the property or a single family home, if that's all they want, they can choose that. But it allows us some more flexibility on what we actually want down there. Based on the survey results and of our night of moving things around, it seemed like a lot of residents were okay with having some single family and some mixed use or smaller homes, especially for those that might be in that 55 and older category that want to live here but don't want to have all the maintenance, and their HOA could help take care of that.
So if I understand correctly, a villa flat or manor house condo would only be allowed in a higher density zone.
And if I
Yeah,
if I could speak to
PUD.
that, yeah, the way it's set up is it's in an overlay. And the overlay, the base zone is still single family residential. So like Carrie's saying, the owner of that property or the developer of that property, if all they want to do is single family homes, the base zoning is still going to support that. The overlay just gives them the options, should they want to do this, that they can come talk to council about it. The interesting thing with an overlay is we're not changing the zoning to allow it. So nobody by right could go build a manor flat or some mixed use development. They would need to work with the council, get an overlay approved, and council would have to want that overlay to apply, right? They'd have to like what's submitted. And if council doesn't like what's submitted, if they don't like how the property owner and the developer is wanting to pursue these options, council just says, that's really not the direction we want to go. And the base zoning still stays single family residential. So basically we're looking at options and potential, like Carrie said, so that way if a developer wants to do something like this, we're not just pulling it out of the sky, it's in a plan. But if no developer wants to do this, if a developer looks at it and says, this just doesn't pencil financially, this doesn't make sense, they're not forced to do any of these options, right? We're not rezoning it. We're not taking away their right to do a single family home. We're also showing the state that we're trying, we're looking at ways that we could have alternative housing, what we call missing middle housing. And we're going to see if the market accepts it. And if what developers propose is something that council would want. And that's how this general plan is set up.
Okay, that's helpful. Well, that answers that question. Any other questions?
And I hope everyone understands that, because I imagine there will be some pushback from the community. As the community looks at this general plan, I'm sure that many residents will look at this and view it as, hey, we're trying to force multifamily housing on the community. And so I hope everyone at least in this room understands, no, that's not true, but we're trying to open the door so that we can explore it. But at the end of the day, maybe none of this stuff will ever be built, right? Maybe it will just be single family homes. But at least we've
Right.
opened it up for a conversation.
Right.
And again, if we keep that message clear, that it's single family unless a developer comes with a certain amount of property and can enter a development agreement for the overlay, which is what Summit Creek did. So Summit Creek's overlay on their property allows them, as you notice, some of the homes, especially if you've been on the Summit Creek side, have like a 1/3 acre or around that around where their clubhouse and stuff like that is, but it goes up to like 5 acres. So, or maybe 2.5 acres. I can't remember what their largest lot size is, but an overlay allows you to have certain density in some areas and a larger density in another area so that you can kind of plan how you feel it's going to go. But again, the council still has to approve that eventually, however that developer brings it to the table. And if they don't, then they have to go back and forth quite a bit for the overlay to be in place. But the overlay isn't just there and they can just jump in and say, we're doing this. It has to be worked out. Otherwise, it just remains as the single family.
I had a question on the moderate income housing goals and section D, proactively monitor housing needs and opportunities. Number 3, well, I guess not a question, maybe it's a suggestion. It says regularly engage with residents, particularly younger families and those seeking to downsize. I would say, instead of saying particularly younger families, it would say regularly engage with residents of all demographics, because I would say downsizing is also of interest to those on the other end of the spectrum. So all age demographics may have an interest in housing that is potentially small.
Maybe instead of particular, you could put including younger families and those seeking to downsize, because that shows younger and older. So maybe it's just including them in that conversation.
Right.
Because that's really what the state's looking at. They're looking at this missing housing opportunities, and they want every city to have a plan for what they call moderate income housing, although there's no definition of what moderate income housing looks like. But based on our city, the larger the home, the larger the cost. And so some of these areas, if it has an overlay, might be able to satisfy that market need for those who would like to stay in Woodland Hills, move to Woodland Hills, and have a smaller space. Therefore, maybe a smaller cost. It just depends on, there's a lot of things that go into that, but at least it shows the legislature, again, like was said before, our general plan doesn't necessarily all go into place, or it's not necessarily exactly what will happen, but it shows that we're trying to keep up with the state statute for this particular area.
Maybe instead of younger,
Whatever, Daniel, your thoughts, but I just thought I didn't want to limit us to only recognizing younger, but I recognize, Carrie, what you're saying of just kind of trying to show the state that we're making an effort for families to be able to stay in the state and have entry-level housing and things like that, because I know that's a big initiative for the state right now.
Well, and younger families means just what it says, younger families just starting out, maybe people who don't even have kids yet, or maybe only have 1 or 2. And then those seeking to downsize, I think that refers to those 55 and older who are now empty nesters. And so that's where I see seeking to downsize includes that older population base.
I'm fine with it then staying particularly younger families and those seeking to downsize, if we could precede it with regularly engage with residents of all demographics.
Yeah, and that's why I put, instead of particularly, put including. So it's all residents, including younger families and those seeking to downsize. Because we do want them to recognize we are thinking of those 2 demographics.
Yeah.
In addition to all residents.
Yes, we have a lot of different demographics in our city, and I don't want any to feel like they're not heard. Okay.
Absolutely.
The transportation goals, section B, Number 4, I just was trying to understand the consider installation of stop bars at key intersections. I don't have any issues with that necessarily, but my question was, would that be like as part of the stop sign? Since we don't have, signals.
Yeah, I was
so the
wondering
stop-
what stop bars are too.
Yeah, so the stop bar is that white strip. So as you
Yeah.
approach
Oh.
a stop sign, you typically have the stop sign right there on your right, and then you have that white strip, that bar, on the white painted bar on the ground where you're supposed to stop. And with intersections that don't have that white strip, sometimes drivers don't see the stop sign, they just plow right through it, right, which creates a hazard. So that's why as streets get updated in time, we've had those stop bars kind of installed, throughout Utah. A lot of the older intersections don't have that. That's pretty common. So that's a pretty typical upgrade as we look at public safety, as well as standardizing
Okay.
stop size signage, which I think Woodland Hills has done. But you've probably seen Payson and some of the other cities where the stop signs have varying sizes, right? So trying to get those all standardized with stop bars.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Okay, and then I just wasn't sure, and this is just my own lack of knowledge. Right above that, continue to use MUTCD standards. What does that stand?
Yeah, so those are the signage standards. Like I was just saying about the size for a stop sign or the color of red that's used in a stop sign. You'll see older signs where it varies the shade of red and whatnot. And nowadays we've standardized all of that through MUTCD. And I know that like Ted's well aware of all of that and he's doing it. And we worked through these goals with him.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. Okay,
Mhm.
my last question was on goal 3, improve connectivity and support active transportation where feasible. It said limit use of cul-de-sacs unless topography requires it. So tell me why that would be helpful.
Let's see where is that one? What was the citation again?
Oh, last page. So in the
That's goal number 3 on transportation.
Okay, goal number 3, and then is the limit use of cul-de-sacs unless topography requires it. So cul-de-sacs, but one of the challenges is that cul-de-sacs only have one point of ingress and egress. So for public safety, well, for a handful of things, it creates some challenges. So one is public safety, right? If you have a blockage, people who are in the cul-de-sac can't get out. From a utility standpoint, you don't have looping in your utility lines, so there's less efficiency and less redundancy. So for a water line, for example, you have to have it come in and then it dead ends, as opposed to having it come in and then reconnecting. So that way, if you have to close a line, you have an alternative way. It's easier for maintenance and whatnot. If through streets are easier to redevelop in the future, I know sometimes we don't think like this because it's hard to think like 200 years out, but if our road system that we construct is one of the most resilient features of a city. They don't change very often. And so, in 100 or 200 years, when land use types change, when our current homes become really old, there's really not much redevelopment potential when there's a cul-de-sac. So it really ties the hands of future city councils decades from now. So it's challenging for infrastructure like utilities, it's limiting for your land use, it's difficult for public safety. And so ideally, we'd have streets that connect, that go through, and we'd have connectivity. But definitely when you have topographical issues, right? When you have a hillside, we're not going to go construct a road where it doesn't make sense, right? There are certainly times where cul-de-sacs are the most efficient road system and land use system. So we want to recognize that, especially in a hillside community like Woodland Hills, where there are a lot of cul-de-sacs. But also with Woodland Hills, you've noticed the way it's designed, there aren't as many connections. And so when you have a wildfire, we have connectivity challenges, right? Where if we had to evacuate the city and you have a lot of cul-de-sacs, there are few points of egress and ingress. So we want to try to mitigate that as much as possible with through streets and connectivity. So
The other thing too with that, Danielle, is the part with public safety is that our big snow plows have a really hard time clearing the snow in a cul-de-sac.
Mhm.
The other thing is even though they're built to standard, our fire trucks also have a little bit of an issue. If it was something big and we needed multiple fire trucks, ambulances, police vehicles, it would be hard for them it is hard for them to get in and out. We used to allow flag lots all over the place, and that was one of the main issues was, oh, if you have a fire, the fire truck can't get up there. So now if somebody owns one of those existing, they have to put in a cul-de-sac halfway through their property, a turnaround for the fire trucks to get up and out. But we don't, they're not allowed in our ordinances anymore. But that's another reason that we will try to limit cul-de-sacs in the future, depending on the topography, not just making it to be a cozy neighborhood anymore. We have to think of public safety and snow removal.
And you can think of efficiency as well. When you look at snow removal, it takes a lot of time to cover all those miles. And when you have a cul-de-sac, you have to come in, and then once you plow it, you have to come all the way back out. When you have through streets, you can just continually be plowing. Response times for emergency services are longer when you have cul-de-sacs versus through streets. Obviously, Woodland Hills right now, you have your collective mailboxes, but even mail delivery or Amazon delivery, it slows everything down, so there's less efficiency with cul-de-sacs, and there's a whole laundry list. Walkability, it's just not as walkable when you have cul-de-sacs. Your kid kicks the ball over the fence and you have to walk like all the way around to get to your neighbor, as opposed to have a street that connects. So there's a whole laundry list of as to reasons why. So I don't know if that answers that.
Oh, that was helpful. I just didn't know and want to make sure I was informed before saying it was fine.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Harry, anything else?
No, that only thing I really was talking about was the part with the ADUs, just to make sure that we're clear on those in the moderate income housing space, because more and more people might be considering having those internal as well as detached or external accessory apartments on their property. And they're both allowed in our current ordinance.
Yeah, I think that's the friendliest moderate income housing our residents are supportive of. Okay, well, help me understand. If we're going to get the full marketing version of this later, do we need to want to approve these goals now, or are we just going to wait and approve them when it's all nice and pretty from your marketing department? What were you
You may
hoping?
want to approve the goals now, because what I'll provide you from the marketing is not just the goals, it's the full chapters. Right. So it's going to be currently it's 36 pages for those 3 chapters. So that includes everything, right? Not just goals.
Okay, so we'll approve maybe the other aspects that were added in addition to the goals. Okay, that's helpful. I wasn't sure what that was supposed to look like. Okay, well, I motion to approve sections land use goals, section moderate income housing goals, and transportation goals.
As edited today, right? Like as discussed today.
As discussed and edited June 23rd, 2025. I'm sorry, I wrote notes on this. Any discussion?
Well, you have to ask for a second first and then discussion.
Brandy seconded.
Okay.
Any on the motion? Okay. There's no further discussion. All in favor, we'll call a vote to approve the minutes, or to approve the land use goals, transportation goals, and moderate income housing goals as edited today. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Hi.
All opposed say no. Did you say aye? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing that the motion passes, and we have no other items on the agenda today, unless anybody else has anything to bring up but I will just say real quick, our next meeting would be July 28th. As long as there's no issues with that, you can obviously let me know and we can make adjustments if we need to. But for now, we will plan July 28th, Monday, 5 p.m. for our next meeting. And we will also discuss in between a committee member to replace Nate. And we thank him for the time he gave to this committee up to this point. And we will look to try to nominate some for the council to put in by Tuesday in July. Okay. I'm motion to adjourn. I motion to adjourn.
Second it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. Bye.